Emeth in Oxford Circle for 17 years. Beth Emeth in Oxford Circle. And when Beth Emeth elected to merge and go out of business owing to its change in demography, I decided that that was also the time that I was not going to continue with Beth Emeth. Beth Emeth joined Sharei Shamayim. So now Sharei Shamayim is actually called the Congregations at Sharei Shamayim. There are a number of synagogues under the Sharei Shamayim roof. So they have congregations, but they don't have members. Question number 2.
You have made reference in some of your sermons, discussions, etc. There's certain changes that you would like to make. What sort of changes are you envisioning?
Well, that's more complicated. First of all, I don't think that any changes that I would make would be unilateral changes. They're not going to be made by edict. There are things that I'd like people to consider. So I've spoken a couple of times, maybe more directly than I even intended, about the fact that I think that the stone chumash that we use on Shabbos is an Orthodox book which has a great many mistakes in terms of the English translation, but more importantly, it reflects a philosophy which I'm not sure is consistent with the philosophy of our group. So, for example, one of the things that I'd be interested in having the group take a look at are some of the newer translations. Some of the newer translations of the Bible that are out. The gold standard right now in biblical translation and commentary is the Eitz Chaim Chumash, which is both more readable and it has a great deal to offer. So that's an example of one of the recommendations that I'd like.
Okay, we're not saying edicts, we guys are things to talk about.
I'm looking for the right language to sort of communicate the idea that I think that anything that happens in this synagogue, and I think in most successful synagogues, are a partnership. There's got to be some kind of discussion, some kind of back and forth. So I would like, in a more relaxed kind of a setting, to be able to make a case for the fact that I think that the Eitz Chaim has a lot to recommend it, and I think that it might encourage people to read the Bible more often, more frequently, and more sensitively. The problem with the stone chumash is that it's a reflection of an orthodoxy which I think, even for the Orthodox, is out of step with their own view of the world. Much more the case for people who don't have an Orthodox point of view. I think to be able to take advantage of the latest in biblical criticism and biblical science and in the study of language would really
Say it like that.
Some musical accompaniment.
Asaf, let me call you back, all right?
That's the Beethoven ninth, ladies and gentlemen.
My son says hello to everybody. So I think that it has a great deal to recommend. It has a great deal to recommend it, and that's the sort of thing that I would be interested. By the way, I mean I think a side benefit is that, for example, if the synagogue would adopt the idea of this Eitz Chaim, it represents a tremendous opportunity for fundraising as well, because not only can the purchase be made at a reasonable amount, I think that if people buy into the idea, the opportunity to dedicate these kinds of books means that on each particular volume there's a markup that could go directly to the synagogue. And I think that's not a bad idea either. So that's an example.
Well, give us a few other examples.
Well, I think that the prayer books are the same thing. I mean, it's very, very unusual that in a synagogue of this kind of orientation to use the beer Baumsitter that we just used downstairs. That is it's an unusual book. Somebody had contact with Dr. Right, so you knew Dr. Birnbaum.
He was the principal of my Hebrew school.
Okay.
Right, for a few years.
And that wasn't last week or the week
How's he
before.
doing?
So I think that the Birnbaum Siddur represents that same issue. The Machzor that we use on the high holidays, also the exact same thing. It's not that these books are bad. I manage pretty well on the Hebrew side of the page, but I think that the group is missing out on the best translation and commentary that is available. And all of these things represent, I think, a way of connecting with the people who come to the synagogue, who want to be able to read a book which is both easy to understand, clear in terms of its vision, and more to the point, I think makes the service a little bit more understandable and relevant. Relevant is not a word that I normally like to use, but it speaks in a modern idiom, and I don't think that that's bad.
What do you think of our Shabbat Siddur?
The Shabbat Siddur is not a bad Siddur, but it's an anomaly in terms of everything else that you've got. So the book, the Shabbat Siddur, which was edited by Reuven Hammer, represents exactly what it is that we're talking about. Hammer is a reasonably modern rabbi. He is alive and well. He's not walking around with the aid of crutches and or walkers. He has all his wits about him, and he has served many, many years in a flourishing conservative synagogue. And so the book represents a completely different approach. What is interesting, and this is not really the question that you asked me, some of the decisions about the nature of our Shabbat liturgy and its usage are interesting to me. They are not wrong, and I'm not even sure that I would change them. They are just interesting, and so one of my questions would be, in some relaxed kind of a setting, to find out how those decisions got made. If they were made unilaterally by any one of the rabbis, if anybody spoke about what the considerations were in making some of the changes. So, for example, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I'm waiting for an example.
Oh, so for example, before the Musaf, on Shabbat in the morning, our synagogue does not recite the Yakum Purkan prayer. I don't even know if you know what Yakum Purkan is anymore. It's an Aramaic prayer. In most of the Siddurim, there are 3 paragraphs. So I'm partial to it because it's a prayer for scholars and teachers. So the fact that we deleted, I didn't know if that was an implied statement about whether or not.
We didn't have any, or?
Well, I don't know. It sort of reminds me of the story of the synagogue board that voted by a vote of 7-6 to wish the rabbi well after his recent hospitalization. So if the group is voting 7-6, that's not a good sign. So to delete it altogether even surpasses the 7-6 vote. So, but the truth of the matter is, that all of these decisions in all liturgical texts are reflections of people's biases and of people's philosophy. If you would take a look at all of the different Haggadahs that are out, maybe you remember the old Maxwell Haggadah, the old Maxwell House Haggadah. So now there are tens, maybe even hundreds of Haggadahs. The Hebrew, for the most part, is the same, though even there have been some changes. But the English represents a radical change in worldview. Some of it, I think, would be very, very exciting and very, very uplifting to take a look at. So I'm not lobbying for any one or for all of those changes. I'm just saying that I think that pretty soon it's going to be 2019. If these decisions were made in 2000, or 1940, or 1970, or 1970. So it's time to sort of take a look again and see whether or not these are the kinds of books that we like, or more to the point, if there aren't books that are better being defined as both better translation, more accurate commentary, and then the group gets a chance to decide. We like it or we don't like it, that's all.
Well, I have 2 or 3 more questions, but if other people,
You just pass me the coffee?
I would just like to kind of just say, this isn't a question, it's just my hunch, and I'm not old here, you know, I've been here a while, but my hunch is that this is not a congregation that's rolling in the money. And so the lack of consistency between the different books and the approach might represent more other things.
And I'm sure that that's a possibility, but because
Just my
I was responding just to the issue of preferences, I didn't get involved in the
Yeah, well,
dialogue.
we always have to follow the money.
All right, well, nobody told me that, so
That's my hunch.
That's a youthful answer.
Yeah, that's my
So,
hunch.
so my biggest concern is the Daily Minion. And the attendance at the Daily Minion has been a problem that has been growing. I've been coming here consistently for more than 10 years for Minion in the morning. And there was a time when you could consistently count on a Daily Minion. And it was something that we took pride on, that if someone was out of town, if someone heard about Kesher Israel, one thing they could count on was they could come here if they had a yearsite or whatever, they could come here and find a minion. And that's no longer the case except for a couple of days a week. There are a couple of popular days. But what ideas would you have?
look, I don't think I'm a magician, but I want to say that when I first got involved with the synagogue, nobody asked me to come to the Friday morning minion. I decided that on my own, I was going to come on Friday mornings. It was the one morning of the week at the moment that worked out for me. I wanted to come. I wanted to see what goes on a weekday and not on a show. I think that what you are pointing to is the issue that people don't have the sense of commitment and obligation that really ought to keep a minion vital. I have had discussions with Uri from time to time about opening the Ark when there are 9 people here. I really wish that we wouldn't do that. We don't do it on Kol Nidre night. Nobody has any
Nobody
concerns.
would think about it.
Right, nobody has any concerns about whether or not there's going to be a minion. That opening the Ark is a kind of a concession to the fact that we're going to go forward not with 10, we're going to go with 9. I suggested to him that he take a picture of everybody in the shul and put them on the back row. And that way, even if there were 2 people, we would have a picture of another 8 people who were once in the room, and we could count them for the minion. The truth of the matter is, we don't do that because we think that it's silly. Well, that opening the Ark for 9 has been dealt with in the tradition, and it's not dealt with in a very, very nice way. And I think that that could change if we could begin to generate a kind of a sense that we really need you. We take pride in the fact that our minion is a daily operation, that you can count on us. Now we also want to be able to count on you. Well, I think that I think that the way that you do that is first on a person-to-person basis. I need for you to give me one Tuesday a week. You're going to be a Wednesday person. You're going to be a Thursday person. I mean, every synagogue gets involved in these minion captains and groups. You know,
That's something we don't have that.
well, but there ought to be.
Once upon a time we did.
Yeah, when I first
We had.
started, we did.
We did.
Yeah,
There was a
we had
person
that.
that we could contact for each day that was in charge of each
2
day.
days I know, and the rest of the week I didn't know whose day.
I
I
it was.
know.
I know Ricky's day and I know Jay's day.
All right, but right now, it ought to be everybody's day, at least in the sense of, we want to commit to making sure that there is a minion. So I think that if people could connect on a person-to-person basis, please come, we need you. You don't have to come 7 days a week. If you could give me 1 day a week or 2 days a week, that would be a terrific thing. There are people who I've met on the Fridays, who I've seen a couple of times, but I've never seen them at other times when I'm here. I think that they would not be averse to coming if they were really apprised of the fact that the group needs to sort of rejuvenate its morning minyan, and we could use your help. And I think that people won't turn down a person-to-person contact.
You'd be surprised.
Well, you know, the truth, anybody who's involved in fundraising know that people don't give to causes. They mostly give to people. And that's really, and that's really what has to be done here. So floating the idea of the minyan as an idea is a nice idea, but people are not going to be as moved by that as they would be if they got a call from a friend, from somebody who is important, said, listen, we're really stuck. It would mean a lot to me if you could give me a day a week.
You know, we're supposed to be asking you questions, but since we're all here, you know, the long history of the morning minyan was that it was something for old men. That's what they went to, morning minyan. You know, and then it became for women too, and that long history is something that for your site. It hasn't been presented in an ongoing way at Kesher Israel, that it's a way to start your day. Whether you have your site or not, whether your friend has your site or not, it's a way to start your day. And it changes your day. And over the last years, it hasn't been announced and pressed, you know, every week in a consistent way about morning minyan. Please come. It's the way to start your day.
Well, it's something about the culture of the institution as well. If the
Sure.
group communicates in a really direct way, then I think that people will begin to consider the idea of coming to the minyan a little bit more regularly. That strengthens everything, and it's a good feeling to that sense of you can count on the morning minyan.
Yeah, several years ago, that was my speech for
Yeah.
Rosh Hashanah.
And you made it a few times.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
And it made absolutely no difference.
That's
at all.
right.
Not
She
one person.
She's the one that made it
I
feel.
really opened my heart to
Yes,
this
she did.
congregation and told them what a difference it makes if you start your day with the morning minyan. That it's such a positive way to start your day, to have the quiet, to be able to contemplate, to be with a community of people.
And I'm not arguing against any of that. I just
Yeah.
want to add to that basket of thoughts, this idea of it makes us proud to be able to have this minyan. It's one of the things that speaks well about us.
Right.
Yes, it
And so we need your help. And I don't think, my experience.
So maybe you're right, that you need a one-on-one
Yeah, I-
appeal, because my appeal,
No, I
the
think you
general appeal,
absolutely
did
do, but
nothing.
what I wanted to say is that my experience over the last couple of months here is that this has been mostly a welcoming group, it's been a nice group. I have felt very, very comfortable with the people that I've met. I really believe that if there were a core of people that would make this request, I need your help. We really take pride in our minyan. We've come on hard times a little bit. We're going to rejuvenate the process, and we're now starting again with minyan captains, or whatever you want to call it. But you have to sign up with me. I need to know that I can count on you for a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday, whatever it is. And I think that that's how people.
What is the rabbi's role in this?
The rabbi beats people up if they don't come. The rabbi-
Would you be willing to contact people?
Yeah, sure.
And how about attending, would you be willing to?
Yeah, I'm willing to attend. I can't promise that I'm gonna come every single day, but it has not been a hardship for me to come on Fridays. I would find more days to come. I believe in the minyan also, so I'm happy to be here. here, I'm telling maybe a secret out of school that I shouldn't tell, but I was surprised on Sukkot, when I went over the calendar, we worked out the days of Yontif, somebody said to me, what day of Yontif are you gonna come? I didn't even understand the question. I said, if it's Yontif, I'm gonna be here. And then somebody said to me, well, in the past, all of our clergy didn't come on every day of Yontif. So I said, well, that's not my orientation. If it's Yontif, then I'm gonna be here. And, you know, I didn't have a mandate to twist anybody's arm, so I didn't say anything. I said, if that's the way you do things, then fine. But you can count on me. I'm gonna be here on all of the days of Yontif. I think it has something to do with sort of communicating in a firm way, not in an overbearing way. We really need, we need your help.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you're up to 4 questions already.
Nice. The fourth thing with Passover.
Passover.
Do you know how to run a website, post to a Facebook page, any of
No.
this?
Isn't that why we have kids? That's
Uh,
why.
That's right. That's why you have kids. Exactly.
Here, my website guy just called me. That's if I
I
have.
understand, I understand.
If I have a problem, he gets a call.
Okay, I get it. How would you plan on trying to expand the membership of the congregation?
That is something that I have been thinking about. My impressions, and somebody can correct me, is that the synagogue is not doing enough good work in terms of programming for its membership. A couple of you who got on my list, I think maybe by accident because of other kinds of communications, got a note from me about 3 weeks before Hanukkah saying, you got one of those notes, you wrote back that you had a theater date you couldn't come to.
Oh, okay. And I did have a theater date.
But I wasn't aware of any plans for the observance of Hanukkah in the synagogue. And that went on for 8 days until I got a note back saying, I just found out that there's going to be a Hebrew school Hanukkah party. That's going to be our Hanukkah celebration. Except that last night, there weren't any members of the congregation here. There were just people from the school. And that's not bad, but the synagogue ought to be programming. So I think that there are a lot of things that the synagogue ought to be considering for itself that represent attractions. I think that there could be concerts. I think that there ought to be movies. I think that there ought to be speakers. I think that there ought to be trips. I don't see any of that on the synagogue's calendar, and I have mentioned that from time to time, again, in a gentle way, not wanting to exceed my mandate. When I came, it was sort of clear, right? I don't even remember if you were the spokesperson for that. But,
I was not.
Right, but but maybe it was Mark Levine who said, we want you to be the interim rabbi. Well, that said to me, don't rock the boat. Don't make any changes. Don't make any changes. Just be here. All right. So I'm not here
Hold
to.
the fort.
Right. So I'm not making any changes, and I'm not rattling anybody's cages. But on the issue of how could we, I think that programming is an area that the synagogue needs some attention. It is not clear to me that there, and maybe Dawn could even speak to that, though she's here, I think, not to speak. The connection between the preschool and the congregation, I think, is not articulated in a clear enough fashion. Am I speaking out of school here? I mean, we've got, you could say more definitely, probably what, 90 kids in the.
Yes, there are 93 kids.
So there are over 90 kids, maybe as many as 50% are Jewish. That ought to be a pipeline for membership into the synagogue. I know, because again, I listen on Friday at breakfast, but I understand that the preschool represents a significant addition to the synagogue's revenue stream. But as important as that revenue stream is a people stream. Last night, I met a couple of people some of them, it turns out that I know their families by, but they would consider joining the synagogue if the synagogue would reach out to them. And I think that outreach is not here in significant force, and that's a shortcoming of the synagogue. Again, without placing blame, it's just an area that I think ought to be attended. It ought to be attended to.
Developed.
Well, there are a lot of ways. I mean, first of all, I think I don't see the synagogue, the preschool books, but I would certainly start with financial incentives for families that are in the preschool. May well be that
They've already done.
So
They get
it's
free.
They
free,
get free.
it's free membership if they want it.
if they are members of the preschool. I'm talking about beyond the preschool, they ought to consider, synagogue ought to consider taking a little bit of a loss. So preschool,
100%.
preschool plus a year, or plus a year and a half, or whatever it is, just to get them thinking.
Isn't there something already?
No, they have it, if they're preschool ready,
Preschool is
they're free, they can come here.
For the year
okay.
that they're in preschool.
Right.
All right, but I'm talking about.
I know what you're saying,
This is
yeah.
a pipeline that you've got to begin to think about. And the same with the Hebrew school. I think that there are a lot of people who I saw last night that are young families. My guess is that they would appreciate some kind of a reaching out on the synagogue's part to get them involved. And I think, you know, it's sort of like my mother used to say, learn to say yes. And so if you start to shake your head in the yes direction, people get trained that this is a good place to be. So the first year they come for free, that's easy enough. That's not a hardship. But in year 2, there has to be a way to continue to make them feel comfortable. And if they develop what is really a good habit and a healthy reflux, the synagogue will be the beneficiary of that involvement. I think that the school is such a tremendous asset to the synagogue. I have heard wonderful, wonderful things about the synagogue's preschool and about the sense of community. I think I have said that to me it's just been a source of astonishment about how many people who have come through the front door here have had association not only with me, but also with my father and also with the Oxford Circle area. It's a source of great, great strength, in my estimation, that people come to Kesher, Israel, from a different geography. You have people who come here who are not just Center City people.
New
We've
Jersey?
had that for a long time.
No, I'm saying,
Yeah.
but you have to build on that. And I think that the synagogue goes hand in hand with that programming issue. I met some people over the holiday who I hadn't seen maybe in 20 or 25 years. And they come from a great distance to be here, but this is where they want to be now for the holidays. But I haven't seen them now since.
Right.
They would come if we were programmed to begin to attract them. So one of the great attractions is the after-shul lunch. Right, there are people come for that. But people will come for other kinds of activities as well. There ought to be some classes. There are a couple of people who have spoken to me, you know, would I teach this, that, or the other? And my answer has always been that I would, but I have not wanted to exceed my mandate. I mean, the 3 things that I have done, because it didn't bother anybody, was that I come to the Friday morning minyan. I have also tried to come for office hours on a Thursday afternoon, so that people know that if they want to find the rabbi or a rabbi,
You're here.
that I'm here. I have encouraged everybody in the office to give out my phone numbers and my emails. If anybody wants to find me, I'm not hiding. I try to return phone calls in a timely fashion. I have tried to get people to think of me as a resource. There have been 3 deaths in the community here that I'm aware of. I have not officiated at any of the funerals.
You have not?
I have not officiated.
Because.
Well, for a variety of reasons, I think, but the point of my story is that I have been to visit all 3 of the, and I haven't told anybody. I haven't made any announcements. I went to see this one, I went to see, and as a result of my contact with those families, those people have continued to maintain contact with me. Now, I don't know what the history
Right.
of the rabbi of the synagogue's outreach has been, but these people are responding on a human basis. And I don't come and say to them that I need them for anything. I'm just here for you. If there's something that you want, if there's something that you need, if you want to talk, I want you to feel free. And I think that the synagogue would benefit from some of that. You know, warmth is very contagious. People just want to be cared about, and people just want to know that they matter. You know, we talk about different colored people, they matter. So my approach is Jews matter. So I want to be involved with Jews. And if people need me and I can be of help, then I'm there. And that's what, you know, there's a derivative effect. I think it's going to help the minyan. I think it's going to help the school. I think it's going to help fundraising. I think it's going to help the sense of the synagogue feeling good about itself. All of those things just happen because people are saying, you count and you make a difference. And really, I'm a difference maker. That's really what it is that I am about. I'm, you know, on Shabbos morning, you asked me before about other synagogues. I had a practice which always scared the people who I came to when I first came. I never ever sat on the bima. No matter what the architecture of the synagogue, I never sat on the bima. I said, I don't have to sit on the bima. They'll know who the rabbi is soon enough. I want to sit with everybody else. First of all, it helps me to hear what everybody else is talking about.
But it curtails the people that are sitting around you.
Well,
Saying,
only if they talk too loudly. But it is my practice that when I see a new face, I go over on Shabbos and I say hello. It is not possible, if I'm aware, for somebody to walk in and out of our shul without my meeting them or greeting them. So there are a lot of people who I meet for the first time, but we connect. So I didn't remember your first name, but I knew that we had met, and so I wanted to come and to say hello. That makes a difference. And I'm not deputizing anybody else to do it. I think it's nice if they want to, but for me, and I am the rabbi, it's important for them to feel that I am available and that I am interested. So there was a fellow who came yesterday to shul. I hadn't met him before. He has yahrzeit this week. In the same week, he has yahrzeit twice for each of his parents. And he's not going to be able. He's not going to be able to be here. But I said to him, if you're not going to be able to say Kaddish, I will say Kaddish for you. And really, he said to me, nobody ever said that to me before. So I'm hoping that means that he feels like I'm available to him. And maybe he's not going to call me again. Maybe I won't see him until next year, close to the yahrzeit. But I feel like I'm making an effort to try to catch up with him, and I want him to feel that the synagogue is not a cold place. I have very, very close friends of mine who recently moved downtown. Before I came, they said to me that one of the synagogues they came and visited was Kesher, Israel. They were very, very unhappy when they left. They walked in and out of the building, nobody spoke to them, nobody greeted them, and they have not been back. Now,
We came for a Shabbat service?
they were here for Shabbat. Now, they have come,
What time of year did they come?
they were here at the beginning of August. They were-
Beginning of August?
Yeah, they were here. in the-
Okay, now I understand.
They were here.
Nobody's here.
They were here in the beginning of
No one's
August.
here to say.
And I'm not
That's what his
blaming,
argument is.
I'm not blaming anybody, but I'm just saying, these are people who have always been with us for Yontif. When I heard that experience didn't sit well with them, I didn't want to invite them to come as an obligation to me. We have always broken the fast with them. They're very close friends of
Right.
ours. But I have not said to them, come to shul. I will, down the road. I just wanted to give them a break, and I didn't want them to feel that they had an obligation to me. They'll show up here, but every synagogue likes to think about itself. We're warm, we're welcoming, we're Hamish. Everybody's. The question is whether or not we are really. Somebody else gets to make that decision. So I'm just saying that the same experience that I had yesterday, I think gets replicated over a period of time.
I just have to say that I think in the summertime, you're never gonna have a lot of
No,
people because they go to the
No, I'm
shore.
sure that that's true.
So I
That's
don't,
No, I'm
his
not
biggest
blaming
argument.
anybody, I'm just.
Yeah,
It's not his
no, I'm
argument.
surprised, though, if I were here, because I'm
Right.
likely to have been here, I'm surprised.
And the last question,
That's unusual. I really
the whole question of interfaith marriage and children of interfaith marriage. What are your views on
Touchy
this?
subject.
Well, it's a touchy
Touchy
subject.
subject.
It's the current subject.
Well, look.
How do we handle this subject?
Okay, so you and I have spoken about this a little bit, so for the people who weren't a part of our conversation, so let me say what I can say comfortably and then what I have to say by virtue of my being a rabbi. In the other part of my life, I see intermarried couples all the time.
What is the other part of your life?
In my marriage and family therapy practice, I say, and I don't have a problem being with intermarried couples when I am a clinician. If somebody calls me and said, I'm about to marry somebody who's not Jewish, then I have to decline to officiate at that marriage. I am not going to officiate at the marriage of a Jewish person and a non-Jewish person. If I meet an intermarried couple in our synagogue, then I'm going to do my very, very best to make the synagogue a warm and caring place for that family, including the non-Jewish member of that couple. But there will come a time, maybe around bar mitzvahs or other rites of passage, where that issue becomes a very complicated issue. If a child is presented to me, I want you to meet my son, Harvey. I want you to know he's not Jewish, but his bar mitzvah is next week, right? Then I have to say, that's a hard thing for me to do. The bar mitzvah, the core of the bar mitzvah ceremony is being called to the Torah, the recitation of which says, Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, who has chosen us from among all of the nations of the world. So I respect everybody's right to make any decision that they want to make. I want them to also respect our tradition.
What
So-
can Harvey do, Rabbi?
Well,
What
the
can
week
Harvey
before
do
the bar
if
mitzvah?
Harvey, let's move that up a little bit. Let's say it's 8 months before the bar mitzvah, and Harvey has been to Hebrew school.
Okay, so one
And
of
he's
the,
actually learned some
okay,
prayers
so one
and
of the
customs
things
and
that's
ceremonies.
interesting to me,
Well, that's
that,
what-
that's all right, one of the things that I now know about our synagogue is, there's no handbook. There's no handbook about our Hebrew school program.
There's no nothing.
Okay,
That's where you
so-
have to start.
Okay, so in the know nothing,
Right.
right? it's gonna come as a surprise to Harvey's parents that the synagogue thinks that it's attending to Jewish families. If the synagogue doesn't say about itself, this is what we require in advance of the bar mitzvah or the bat mitzvah of your son. We require so many years of Jewish education, we require so many years of schooling, we require the following attainments. And if you are not Jewish, then the synagogue is interested in making available the possibility of your becoming Jewish if you choose. If you don't choose, we're still going to be your friends, but we are going to be limited in terms of what it is that we can do for the child. Because if the parents steadfastly affirm the idea that we don't want our kid to be Jewish, right, then the synagogue's response, it seems to me, is, okay, if you don't want the kid to be Jewish, that's okay, but what's so important then about a bar mitzvah? Bar mitzvah communicates a whole set of other ideas. So my interest in what can I do for
Harvey,
and Harvey's family is to make clear that they are welcome, and I want to be the agent for trying to help that family to transition in if that's what they want. If they don't want, I can still be their friend, but there are things that I think that the synagogue can't do for them. And that's true in every area of professional life.
let's drill down. What are you gonna do to transition Harvey and his family?
Again, I need the parents' support and interest.
So if I'm Harvey's mother and I'm Christian and Harvey's father and I are married and we have Harvey and we want, do I have to convert, Rabbi?
No, you don't have, no, you don't know.
So it's just Harvey who
Well,
has
right,
to convert?
on the issue of the bar mitzvah, I'm interested in Harvey.
Okay.
I know, again, from my clinical life, that I am setting off a time bomb in that house, and the parents have to be aware of that. But I only have entree to that discussion if the synagogue arms itself with what I'm calling this handbook or manual or some kind of discussion that makes clear to the family what the synagogue's expectations are.
How will you help, we don't have a handbook yet, but how will you help in this discussion here? How will you help Harvey and his family?
Well, again, it all begins with their,
No.
You've given, she's given permission as a mother.
if she gives me permission,
You got
then I'm gonna begin to talk to Harvey about the attainments which we were gonna require of him to become a bar mitzvah. I don't want that to start though at 12 and a half when they think that the bar mitzvah can be 6 months down the road. In that handbook, I want to talk about the years of education prior to, many synagogues, most even, talk about 5 years in advance of bar mitzvah when all of these issues are settled. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes somebody moves into this community from elsewhere and they've only got 2.5 years until bar mitzvah.
Can you work with that?
I can, and I will, but they have to understand that we're doing them a favor. So it's not a one-way street. They've got to put in the time also. They have to show and demonstrate their interest in all of that because there's a fairly good chance that this kid can't read Hebrew, that this kid doesn't know anything about Jewish holidays, that this kid doesn't know anything about Jewish customs or Jewish practice. Well, that sets off a whole lot of issues because somebody's got to work with that kid, right? So that may involve a decision about synagogue tutoring. That may be the parent's expense. But the synagogue has got to be helpful in terms of meeting that chunk. We're going to help you, but this is going to involve some effort on your part as well.
Is this gonna be like Everest for Harvey?
I hope not. I hope not.
So I think, I'm not aware of the extremes that might be out there, and you say you've come across this in your clinical practice. So can you just give a couple of examples of what some people's expectations are? People where there's maybe not a Jewish parent?
Where there's not a Jewish parent, where
Right.
neither parent is Jewish, or one parent.
What would they be doing?
Any.
Well,
You
so
suddenly hear
on,
somebody
so
wants.
on the far extreme, which is, I think, the most unusual occurrence, the parents have no interest at all in anything Jewish, but they think that bar mitzvah is a nice party, a nice event, a lot like maybe Sweet 16 for a girl, and they go to school with kids who have had
Is this a
that.
Jewish couple?
No,
No, I'm saying this is,
Okay.
So the parents want to afford the kid that same kind of happy,
they want a nice party.
they want a nice party, they want the kid to have that experience. I'm not sure that the synagogue can easily rubber stamp that, because the synagogue has got to make a case for what its values and its commitments are. The comment that I want to hear you, that I want you to hear me saying is, I don't want to turn anybody away. I am a hard liner on certain kinds of things, but my goal is to try to make it possible for the family that wants to gain entry into our cultural setting. So that could be by classes, it could be by buddying up with, getting families to take them on, and there are enough families here, again, I think that are nice, but I wanna call somebody and say, listen, I met this couple last week, they seem to be without any Jewish associations. Do you think maybe over the next month or two, you might be able to have them over at your house sometime for a Friday night dinner? Or come with them to a Saturday morning, just to get this out of the realm of me and them. I want them to meet other normal Jews who are not the rabbi. And hopefully, that association greases the wheels a little bit in terms of getting people to think about Jewishness as not overbearing, but as requiring some effort.
So, because of your affiliation with a synagogue that had structure, that had a handbook, that, you could perhaps identify for us these things that were lacking and give us guidance on how to progress with that.
Well, I would
So
hope-
it's not, I don't know if that's under the rabbi.
I don't know either, but the answer to that is I would certainly like to be a part of that effort. And it wouldn't be a tall order to get together a group of people, because I don't think, again, that this ought to be done by edict. I think that the synagogue is stronger when we've all combined on this enterprise. This is something that we all agree on. This is something that we buy into. And so if we can crystallize our thinking about what are the things that are important to us, that we can then communicate to people who want to come through our front door, then the possibilities for success increase immeasurably. If it's only the rabbi, it's a losing proposition.
Excuse me, I said, so how old is our Hebrew school here?
How long has the Hebrew school been going on?
Yeah.
Before I came here, no. I mean, we've gone through a huge metamorphosis in the last 2 and 3 years.
Yeah.
But it preceded my involvement.
It's about 10 years, it's about 10, 12 years old.
Okay, but it was run very, in the last, I would say 2 or 3 years, we've been far more proactive. And in fact, I know, I can say for myself, when I've met somebody with Hebrew school age children, I turn them over to Marie. I call Marie. So a lot of that has already started to take place.
I believe that that's true. I've also had some conversation with some of these people, so some of what I said, I think, came as a little bit of a surprise to them. But I don't think that the impediments to reaching what I want to call an agreement or some kind of approach that speaks to the orientation and commitment of the synagogue would be hard to come by. It's just that nobody's ever done it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we don't know how to do it.
Okay, well,
So we need some guidance in how to.
I'm willing to be a part of that effort. I want to be.
But I'm saying you could identify.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, the head of the Hebrew school becomes aware of things like that and would discuss with the rabbi and then get back to the parents and make some kind of connection between the parents and the rabbi a year or so or two before a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, well, bat mitzvah. But, you know,
What's
I mean, I see it as
That's not
really
the only
related
issue
a
I'm
lot
thinking
to
about.
Yeah, but
running the Hebrew school to be aware of these possible problems.
Our Hebrew school is emerging, just like when I started with the preschool, and it was emerging. There was no paperwork there. Poor Beth Ellen proofread my handbook several times. There was no handbook, there were none of these things that told the preschool parents that if the kid had a fever on a given day that they would go home. And would say, it's not in writing, why are we doing this? It's not in writing, there's no rules. So I think
Right, that's what
that
I'm saying, yeah.
the Hebrew school committee is working really hard. Can they get better? Yes. Can the preschool get better? Yes. We will be, if we ever stop evolving, then we should stop doing what we're doing, because then we're not evolving. But I think certainly there's been progression, but I think there could be more progression. And I think that's what we're hearing. We need to be a little bit more proactive in the way that we inform families. I do it every day where I'm like, oh, here's the whole of this communication where I need to fix it for next year so that we're a little clearer on X, Y, Z. And it seems like we just need to be a little bit more clear with our families.
Yeah, well, and what the expectations of the synagogue are. I don't know that it's ever been held to task.
Well, that's what
And,
I'm saying.
You know, it's an emerging problem, it's coming up much more for discussion now, and it's part of our transformation.
And it's a good problem to have because now we have families that we need to explain things to.
People
I think
say to
in
me,
the past we haven't.
what's in the bylaws, what's the rules for the synagogue?
Right.
What guides the synagogue, and I don't,
Goodwill.
no, but I'm saying there are bylaws somewhere, there are rules, you know, but we don't have this
Frankly,
available.
You don't wanna read the charter.
I'm not talking, is the charter the same as the bylaws?
The charter is the overriding document, and the charter says this is an Orthodox synagogue, so you don't wanna read the charter.
Okay, but are there,
I'm just telling you, you don't wanna, you don't
Are there
wanna.
also bylaws beside the charter? or
There are,
that's
but
it?
there are, but it's not discussing the kind of items that you're talking about.
Okay.
But
It's
it's-
organizational structure sort of bylaws.
Well, that's right, people wanna know, how does the board get elected? Who chooses them?
Well, that's-
What's the rules
that-
for a board being, you know, we don't,
That's a different topic.
But that's not the rabbi.
Right,
The
yeah,
board
right, that's a
is-
different topic.
That has
no, but
nothing
I'm
to do with it.
saying,
But it plays to the
we need
idea of
guidance in
structure
how
and
to
guidance.
go about structuring all this, because where do we start
Starting
with
from
things like
scratch.
this?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, that's what I
Round-
said, it might not be the rabbi's
No,
job,
but
you know,
and
to.
everybody knows that the comment ascribed to Justice Frankfurter, who said that sunshine is the best disinfectant. So if
You open things up.
you open things up and people know, I mean, I think that the hardest thing, I learned this early on in my own marriage. Don't surprise me. Tell me what my expectations are. And
I
then,
don't think.
well,
That's such a
no,
guy thing,
well,
right?
maybe it is, but it's really important if you know what's coming down the pike, then you can gear up. If it comes out of left field, then you have no chance of success. I mean, never even occurred to me, never gave it a thought. Right, but the synagogue shouldn't be in that situation.
Right.
The synagogue ought to know who it's dealing with and what its expectations are, and then the families get a chance to say, that's helpful to me, and never considered that. I mean, if it came as a surprise to a membership family that there was gonna be dues, right? That would be a bad way to do business. Family ought to know that at some point they're gonna get an invoice. That's the expectation. But if it's out in the open, not if it comes without any warning and without any kind of understanding that those are the rules of the road. This is how we do business.
Yes, I think we should mail out invoices, but that's a different topic. I lost that battle years ago.
Oh, well, I don't.
What, the invoices?
Mailing out an invoice. Not
Well,
saying,
that's
not a
not for
family
this
member
market.
should owes it. John, here's your name, annual membership, whatever the number is.
Oh, we don't do that?
We don't do that.
How do people know?
You send out a generic thing saying your annual dues are now due and the annual.
But you know what, that's a discussion.
I know, it's a different, but since you haven't decided.
Different day.
It's not for the
Not-
So I presume that because you're married for so long that your wife never threw you a curveball.
No, don't presume that.
I didn't think it was possible.
Don't presume that. My wife throws me curveballs, my kids throw me curveballs, pretty soon my grandchildren are.
Oh, they'll be throwing it.
But that's the nature of life.
Right.
If you're smart, and this I do believe, I think that everybody can deal with anything if they know what to expect. I think that my parents did me a disservice when they sent me to the dentist, right? And they never said it's gonna hurt, right? At some point, if I know that it's gonna not be easy to have my tooth pulled and it may hurt, but they were at the ready to sort of alert me to the fact that they were going to shepherd me through the process and that I wasn't on my own. That's what we need. If you send a kid for a flu shot, kids gotta know it's gonna sting. But you'll be okay. And I'm gonna be there with you in an hour or 2 hours a day. Whatever. That's what the synagogue needs. Synagogue needs not to be afraid, but to be honest and to be open. Honest and open will never ever hurt anybody.
I think we have been. I think we've been honest and open.
I hope. I don't.
And I mean, I've been here for, I guess, almost 40 years, and I found the synagogue to be embracing.
I think that that's true, but it does sound.
But that came from my relationship with people here. And so, while, yes, we're always evolving, and everyone is always evolving, I don't like to hear us being spoken of negatively.
No, I understand Mark's question. To speak to the issue that there are things that could come as a surprise to people because they weren't told. And that's the piece that I'm speaking to.
Do we have any more questions?
Mark, I have a question for you.
For me?
Yeah, it has nothing
After
to do
25 years, you got a question?
It has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Is that new water or old water there?
Oh,
Okay.
these little things that are on the
Table?
table.
Yeah.
Is this gonna screw Vince up?
It'll come out in the dryer.
It will come out of the dryer.
All right.
I can shake him out.
Shake it.
That's why I started picking them up.
Rabbi, thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Yeah,